What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL podcast. Actually, one of several CBS Sports NFL podcasts. We also have an NFL Draft podcast with the first pick. Check that out. Ryan Wilson, the host of that, joining me for this show as well, along with John Breech, and of course, the one, the only, the power ranking poobah himself, Pete Prisco.
Would that be me?
Yeah.
Is that what you told me?
Actually, look, in full disclosure, Harry has been doing a great job coming up with new alliterative nicknames for you. Pete Prisco, Poobah Pete. What's up, man? How you doing?
Poo platter of power rankings.
Wow.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh boy. Is that, do you like poo platter? Because
I'm a huge poo platter fan.
Who doesn't love a poo platter?
Poo platter.
I couldn't tell you what's on a poo platter.
Wontons,
All the best stuff.
crab rangoons, dumplings, egg rolls.
0 for 4.
In terms of what's on the poo platter, I think a poo platter is technically like a just a phrase where like you could put like any appetizer sampler would technically be a poo platter, right?
Yeah, well, the poo platter is what comes out of your mouth every time we do this podcast. That's a poo platter.
Pete's throwing fastballs today.
Yeah, Pete bringing the heat.
No, did you double your dose of Ozempic? What's going on?
No.
The Poo Poo
All right.
Platter Podcast brought to you by.
All right, brought to you by the Poo Poo Platter. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on any of the various podcast platforms, make sure and give us a 5-star review. Go back one of the feed. Katie Mox, Emery Hunt, and prop stars Alex Selznick looked at the early odds for Week 11. Make sure not to put a cash down before you listen to that show. Excellent content as always. Today, we're going to run through Pete's Week 11 power rankings, try and figure out some paths to the playoffs, and then blind rank NFL fan traditions. But first, the Buffalo Bills lost at home to the Denver Broncos last night on a redo field goal. In honor of doing better the second time, let's talk about the best movie remakes of all time. Weirdly, we only got one shot at this. We only get one shot at this, excuse me. No do-overs. Pete, what are your favorite movie redos?
I'll do one while you're thinking about it, Pete. I was thinking, we were talking about this last night. True Grit. Like True Grit came out, I think, in the 60s with John Wayne, and they redid it with.
No, you can't remake True Grit. Was a great movie, the original.
Oh, I never saw it, but the second one I loved. It was so good. And in fact, the tie in there, the reason it came up is because what's her name? Breech Haley Stanfield? Is that her name?
Josh Allen's girlfriend?
Josh Allen's girlfriend was the star of that show, along with Matt Damon and Jeff Bridges and Josh Brolin. Fantastic movie. But you like the original. Okay.
I didn't know that Scarface was a remake.
I usually hate remakes, by the way.
I didn't know Scarface was a remake.
Well, technically it's not.
How so?
Well, Scarface, the original, wasn't about the drugs in Miami.
Well, that's the whole point of a remake, is you make it like Top Gun is a remake. Or is it a sequel?
Top Gun was a sequel.
Yeah, I guess so.
My God, Brinson.
Oh, boy.
Brinson,
I just wanted to bring up that if you wanted to watch the new Top Gun Maverick, you could watch it on Paramount Plus. A mountain of entertainment.
It's a great movie.
It is a great movie. I wish
Pete's favorite remake is The Longest Yard.
No, I didn't like the longest yard. Second longest yard was it couldn't touch the first.
Yeah,
one.
that's a
Are
problem.
you mad because Peter King was in it and not you?
Oh.
No. Like then I'd get the 25-cent residual check he gets every couple of years.
Harry provided a list here. Reservoir Dogs is apparently a remake as well. So I mean, I'll throw that out there. I love Reservoir.
That was a
Ocean's 11.
No.
Oh, that's a good one too. You can't.
like
You don't want to
Ocean's
watch
11?
the original with Sammy Davis and
the
chairman of the board.
All right, keep going. What other ones you got?
Breech, what else you got?
I got one for Pete. How about, I know you're a big Lindsay Lohan fan. How about The Parent Trap?
No,
The Parent Trap's great.
They were terrible to be. Both of them were terrible to begin. The first one was terrible, and the second one was terrible.
What about
He's
this?
seen them both. That's the best part. He's seen
What
The
about-
Parent
what
Trap.
about
Stars
the,
Born?
You've seen? Oh,
I've actually seen both stars. Both of the Stars Born, and the second one was okay, I guess.
What about this? Angela Lansbury was in the first one, the Manchurian Candidate.
Ooh.
I think Denzel was in the second one with who's the voiceover guy, the Canadian guy that's really good.
They were both good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard. I don't know if the remake was better. Didn't they remake recently? And there's no way it could be better. It was Red Dawn.
Maybe I saw a preview for an action movie with Ryan Gosling. It's like, oh, this looks interesting. And you know what it is? It's a remake of the television show with your favorite actor, Lee Majors, The Fall Guy.
I don't remember The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy, he was a stuntman in LA, and in his spare time, he would be like a bounty hunter. And I think Ryan Gosling and Lee
Most
Majors.
of the remakes aren't in my. I mean, aren't all the Marvels aren't all Batman's remakes technically?
That's a good point.
Superman, Batman.
They had
the Superman movies are terrible. The Batman movies, like, I mean, I guess the first Batman with Michael Keaton would be the original, right? I mean, unless you want to count Adam West.
Well, that you got to count it. It was there.
Adam West is the original.
But was that a movie or just a show?
They actually made a movie.
It was a TV.
Did
they make a movie?
They did the TV show, and they made a really terrible movie afterwards. At some point during the process.
The movie had all four villains. It had the Riddler, the Joker, and you know who played the Joker? Rocky's trainer.
Oh yeah, Meredith
Burgess Meredith.
That's right.
But in the TV series, the Riddler was Frank Gorshin, who was a comedian. He was outstanding as the Riddler.
Yeah, Joker was Cesar Romero.
Yes.
That's right. And then Breech said we got Meredith Burgess as the Penguin. Burgess Meredith as the Penguin.
Yeah.
Who's the other villain? Breech?
Catwoman.
Oh, that was
Eartha Kitt.
Yeah, no. I think. Yeah,
I think the original one was Eartha Kitt, wasn't it?
Batwoman or whatever her title was also famous. So you're right. Eartha Kitt was.
Catwoman was Eartha Kitt, the original one.
You're right.
Burt Ward was Robin.
Burt Ward. He wore tight little britches.
Prisco knows the whole entire cast. This is
Are you kidding me? I was a Batman fanatic when I was a kid. I loved it.
And Harry says that Cesar Romero painted over his mustache. It was his like a white little fuzzy thing when you see him up close because he didn't want to shave it off to play the Joker. Good call, Harry.
Yeah, I love Batman back then, and the remakes.
Well, there was no other sort of action hero shows to watch. What else was there back then?
You don't remember Ultraman?
I don't remember Ultraman.
What about Zorro?
Zorro was awesome. Antonio Banderas.
We are peppering our 18 to 35-year-old demographic with some high.
You know what? If the 18 to 35 demographic actually goes back and rewatches some of them, they'll see how bad they were when I go back and rewatch them because they were so bad. The shows back in those days were awful.
Not great.
Two more that I'll throw out there just because they're on the list that Harry passed along too. I would be remiss by that. I've never seen 12 Monkeys. I've heard 12 Monkeys is great.
I didn't love it, but I haven't seen it in 25 years.
Yeah,
it was but that's with what's his name? Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
Right? Yeah, it was okay.
Oh wait, is Zodiac? Is that the one with
Zodiac was good. Zodiac was good.
Zodiac is good. Isn't that with Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it was a good one.
20 years ago, 15 years ago when it came out.
But then the two that stood out to me on this list that I love Heat. I didn't realize it was a remake. Heat's awesome. Remake.
Yeah, it was good.
And then
got a lot of commenters mentioning Cape Fear.
Cape Fear's a great call.
The Departed apparently a remake.
Do you remember the original Cape Fear villain, Pete?
No, who was
Robert Mitchum? I think.
That's who. What'd you say, Brinson? Who was? What was a remake?
The Departed. I didn't realize The Departed was a remake.
Oh, The Departed.
I didn't either. Really good movie. That might be one of the best. That might be one of the best remakes.
It was based on Internal Affairs from 2002. I mean, The Departed is great.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I love it.
Affairs with Richard Gere.
Internal Affairs was with Richard Gere, I think.
Yeah, that movie wasn't bad. 2002 felt like it was earlier than that. If that's the same movie. Anyway.
There's a 1990 Internal Affairs.
That's the one with Richard Gere. That I think.
Yeah, that's with Richard Gere. Yeah. So
right off the heels of his big American Gigolo breakout.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's Infernal Affairs.
Okay. That sounds like something you get it behind the curtain of the video store.
I was like, did I click on the wrong thing here? That's a 2002 Hong Kong action thriller co-directed by Andy Lau and Alan Mack. Yeah.
They remade American Gigolo too, by the way.
Oh, one more before we go. And Pete, you'll appreciate this. Do you like the updated version of Godzilla or the 60s versions of the 50 versions that came out of Japan Godzilla, which are so terrible?
They were all.
They were so they're fun to watch for 5 minutes just to go back and be like, oh my God, people actually spend a lot of time making these movies. The new Godzilla stink too from all
of them.
Yeah.
Well, nobody makes original movies anymore. Go back and look at all the sequels and remakes and cartoons and comics and everything else. You know, that's why when you go see Oppenheimer, it makes you think.
It was great.
Great movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to watch it.
A little long. But
it was a little long.
It's 4 hours.
3.
Was it? No, it was 3.
3? Yeah. Oh, it's 3 full hours. Okay.
And it was like, okay, you could cut out about 20 minutes.
4 hours? I can watch the Smurfs movie 3 times in 4 hours.
It was 3 hours.
Do that.
Avengers Endgame was Endgame that was 3 hours too. It was like I was in a theater for that one. It's like, all right, like I love this. I love the Avengers, but this is 45 minutes too long.
And the new movie, The Killers of the Flower Moon, that's about the reservation, the Indian reservation.
Great book by David.
It's a great book. I read it.
Really?
I love reading true books.
Have you read any of his other stuff?
Who wrote that book?
David Gran. He wrote The Lost City of Z, which they turned into a movie too. But it's about it's a really good book. Worth checking out. All right, we gotta move on.
This one's gonna be good, but the movie's 3.5 hours. I'll wait till it comes out on Apple.
Yeah, for real. All right, we're gonna stick around upstate New York. Talk about the Buffalo Bills.
Let's do it.
They fell from 10 to 5th. From 5th to 10th in your power rankings, Pete. Much more concerning for the said Buffalo Bills is where they rank in the NFL standings, because they are currently the 10th seed. They're 10th in your power rankings, and they're the 10th seed in the AFC. What I know you talked about the play calling and wanting to go up tempo. I mean, is Josh Allen just pressing too much? What this team feels broken.
Okay, let's go to the mistakes last night. Ready? First one, Gabe Davis hit him in the hands. That's not on Josh Allen.
That's not Ken Dorsey's fault.
The second interception was a terrible play by Josh Allen.
Okay.
Awful. The handoff, we don't know who was at fault for that.
Josh Allen threw the ball at his knees.
Allen.
I don't know, unless it slipped out of his hand or something.
Well, that's still Josh Allen's fault.
And then the Cook fumble to start the game doesn't get you going. But no, Ken Dorsey's not at fault for those plays. What Ken Dorsey was at fault for was the way they played, or maybe McDermott's at fault for him. And here's why. They thought they'd have a really good defense, and they did, and they would have, and it would have been special. You lose your best run stuffer, you lose your best linebacker, you lose your best corner, and you were down your safety and your second best corner last night. You add all that up, you can't play the same kind of defense. And so you got to change what you do on offense. And they didn't. You saw it last week. There were little hints coming from Josh Allen that he was not happy with the way plays were being called. So I'm sure he might have had as much to do with this as Sean McDermott did.
Let me ask you, let me get you on record first. Do you think Ken Dorsey should have been fired after that game?
Yes.
So let me ask you this, because I looked it up because I was sort of curious, because we've been talking about it, and when you see it with your eyes, it feels like the offense isn't clicking. But according to True Media, the Bills are 4th in the NFL after last night's doo-doo burger, 4th in the NFL in points per game, 3rd in the NFL in touchdowns per drive. They're scoring a touchdown on 30% of their drives. They're 7th in the NFL in scoring at all per drive, touchdown or field goal, 41% of the time. 3rd in red zone efficiency, 70% of the time. So where's the problem?
They're not playing the right style. And I'm going to go to the resident Bengals fan, okay? Last week on the opening drive, the Bills played free, loose, didn't run on first down, went right down the field and scored. And then they changed the next 3 possessions. As a Bengal fan, you probably sat there and said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you."
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame this on Ken Dorsey, though. Not last night. It didn't feel like – I felt like they looked better offensively from – if I'm the offensive coordinator, if I'm judging Ken Dorsey, I felt like he called a much better game last night than he did against the Bengals, because like Wilson's saying, it's not his fault they turned the ball over 4 times. Just like you're saying, you can't blame Josh Allen for half those turnovers. You cannot blame Ken Dorsey. This team had 11 possessions last night. They only punted 3 times. So what the hell happened to the 8 other ones? Well, 4 turnovers that weren't his fault and scores. So it's just I have a hard time blaming Ken Dorsey.
200 yards a game in any game ever. It shouldn't be that way.
Well, let me ask you one other question I had, because during the game, you mentioned James Cook fumbled in the first play. We didn't see him again until basically the 3rd quarter. I feel like, I don't know, I'm just guessing, that feels like something McDermott probably had more say over than Dorsey.
Yeah.
Because we saw on the sidelines that James went to talk to him in the 2nd quarter. If you put him out there after everyone makes mistakes, you don't pull Josh Allen after every interception. James played incredibly well when he was out there.
I hate when coaches pull a guy when he fumbles. Now, if he fumbles 2 or 3 times, that's a different issue. But he fumbled.
What if he catches the second fumble?
The game. But here, let's go to McDermott now. Ready? Because he's ultimately responsible for how they call a game. Deep down, he's probably influencing it.
Oh,
and
100%.
Let's go to the end of the game. Cover 0 blitz. I like it.
They got him the first time.
You knock him out of field goal range.
Yeah.
He's out of field goal range. It worked. Why would you run it again? Why would you come right back and run it again and leave all that? If that was a good throw, it's a touchdown. It's a touchdown. It should have been a touchdown. They get a pass interference, questionable pass interference, but they get it. Then you come back and you get 12 men on the field. So he botched that. He botched the cover 0 running it twice. And oh, by the way, he allowed Sean Payton to get away with one because what the hell were they doing?
You know what's funny? Musso and B-Mac hated that play. I want to see what Breech says because Breech is the special teams correspondent, and I appreciate the fact because we see this a lot of times that the kicker's over there drinking Kool-Aid and the holder's not paying attention. Those guys are lined up, ready to go. Russ ran around. I was like, what's going on? He handed the ball right to the official. He had 10 seconds to kick, Will Lutz did. When he was set and there was 10 seconds on the clock, he just missed it. I'm okay with that. What'd you think, Breech?
Well, I'll just say that they did it at the end of the first half. They did the exact same thing. They ran their Mayday field goal, worked to perfection. So I think Sean Payton felt completely comfortable doing it again. And I know that there was a lot of chatter, at least on Twitter, that, hey, why don't you just spike the ball there on 3rd down so your kicking team can be comfortable going out there. But if you spike the ball, so Wilson nailed it with like run a play.
You take a snap and throw it as high as you possibly can into the crowd.
And so you run, say, 5 extra seconds off the clock. I thought the more interesting decision, not the Mayday field goal, was just kneeling it all 3 times and costing your kicker 6 yards because he had already missed an extra point in the game. And moving from 35 to 41 is a substantial jump, especially when you're playing in windy Buffalo in a situation where your holder has struggled with the snaps, your kicker's already missed a kick, and there's a huge percentage change when you jump from that distance from 35 to 41.
Part of the equation you're leaving out with the Mayday field goal. if there's an illegal procedure penalty, there's a 10-second runoff. The game's over. If somebody moved on that line or wasn't set, there's a 10-second run-up because they didn't stop the clock. If they throw the ball into the crowd, there's an illegal procedure penalty. There's not a 10-second.
They were all set. And but
I think Sean
Payton, doesn't matter. You don't put yourself in that position. It was stupidity by Sean in that situation. If he had to do it all over again, he'd listen to my advice and say I should have threw it into the crowd, and then I'll take my chances. Because again, we've seen kicks line up. And guys flinch or move or whatever. If they flinched or move, the game's over. You don't even get to kick it.
But then if you do throw in the crowd, Prisco, if you throw the ball in the crowd, though, you stop the clock. The Bills probably get, if they fair catch the kickoff, probably get the ball with about 15 seconds left at the 25-yard line. They have a kicker with a 60-yard range, and you lose if the Bills make a field goal. So the Bills would only need 30 yards to give Tyler Bass a chance to win it.
It would have been 15. It would have been, what that play start with, 19? No.
22 was when Russell.
24 is official when Russell.
And by the way, Pete, if your answer is, well, your defense should be able to stop them, ask the Bills about 13 seconds, and that's enough time for a team to
I do agree with Pete, though. I agree with Pete that the Bills penalty bailed out a couple questionable decisions by Payton there.
I actually loved it. I don't have a dog in that fight. I loved the aggressiveness because it just felt like he's like, all right, I'm going to trust Will Lutz. He missed it, but there's 12 guys on the field. I didn't hate the.
But you didn't need to have the scramble kick the way it was. It just didn't need to be that way.
He wasn't scrambling. He had 10 seconds.
If he had a flinch on the line, is the game over?
Yeah, at 12 men on the field, the game isn't over.
It is over.
No, because there was more than 10 seconds left, so the 10-second runoff wouldn't have ended the game.
It would have ended the game.
No, because there was more than 10 seconds.
When the kick went through, it was like 2 seconds or something.
Yeah, it was down.
He didn't get it off with 10.
Yeah. The official game clock. The official game clock says the official game log says 7 seconds when he missed the kick, and then 4 seconds when he made the kick.
So it would have had a 10-second runoff.
Yeah, if they flinched at the end, he flinched earlier in the snap, but they didn't flinch.
Why put yourself in a position of risking that?
They didn't want to give Josh Allen the ball back.
The other thing you could do is you could run a fake knee and have Russ bootleg out and then throw it out of bounds.
A Bailey Zappi? Oh, I thought you meant
No. A fake spike.
You could have thrown it high into the air until the ball comes down.
Here's the other part of this conversation. The Bills had no business being in that position to start with. They should have won that football game easily. So we're talking about a reason that the Broncos beat a Bills team that is reeling, that has the same record as the Raiders. And Pete, I'll ask you, what are the chances the Bills make the playoffs right now?
Not very good. Not with that.
Hey, by the way, I just looked at the odds. Would you like to know what the odds are?
I think I know what they are. Ask Pete over under. Make up a number, Brinson. Ask him over under.
Minus 150 to miss the playoffs, over or under.
Oh, it's more than that.
Yeah,
their schedule's brutal.
Minus 250 to miss.
Yeah, the schedule's brutal. Look at the schedule. Read that schedule going forward.
I'm looking on DraftKings here. It's yes, make the playoffs plus 200. No, make the playoffs minus 250. So I mean, very clearly, not their favorite to make the playoffs. Here's their schedule. Versus the Jets, who've had Josh Allen's number this coming week.
They're kryptonite to him.
At the Eagles.
They're going to lose that. I would
imagine. Their bye week in week 13. At the Chiefs coming out of the bye. Versus the Cowboys. At the Chargers. Versus the Patriots. At the Dolphins.
So 3 wins. Three and a half is the over-under, Pete. How many games do they win?
The way they're playing right now?
Yeah.
They win 3.
Yeah, so under. And by the way.
8 and 9?
You said you're fine with Ken Dorsey getting the boot. Is Joe Brady the guy you want calling plays after his debacle in Carolina?
No.
Okay.
All right, Pete, let me ask you a question.
He's never called plays with a quarterback either.
Yeah, I guess. We'll find out, though.
All right,
Joe Burrow called plays. He was pretty good when he had Joe Burrow at LSU.
Yeah, that helps.
We're looking at the schedule. You just kind of predicted 8 and 9 here. If you were the Bills, you have been a Super Bowl contender really the last 3 years. If you miss the playoffs because you finish 8 and 9, do you blow the thing up and start? Do you fire Sean McDermott? Do you start over from scratch? What do you do if you're Buffalo?
He and Brandon Beane got that. What would you call it? The contract extension this offseason, where it's like the vote of confidence contract extension.
I think they start all over with the quarterback.
Why? You're overreacting.
Well, okay, let's look at how the roster's constructed right now. Ready? The 2 safeties are 42 and 53 years old.
They're older. They're older.
They're good players. They're coming to the end. Tre'Davious White's coming off an Achilles tendon.
After
they
an
blew
ACL.
the Kyer Elam pick.
Yeah.
Matt Milano will be back, and I think Bernard's going to be good. They'll be fine there. Defensive line. Russo and Epinesa, they're good players. They're not great players. Von Miller's a shell of himself.
He's older.
Did you see Von Miller at all last night?
No.
Seriously.
Before the game, I saw him hugging.
And I love Von Miller. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's a shell of himself. So they have issues there. Offensively, if they do just make a change, Diggs is going out the door. He's not happy. Gabe Davis is a free agent, and he hasn't lived up to it. There you go. Trayvon, man, 14 got it. You know what? 14 would want to get out of everywhere if he didn't get the ball. If he got 8 catches for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns and he lost, he's a receiver who'd probably be happy.
Ooh.
Pete throwing flamethrowers.
Well, that's the way receivers are in this league. Every receiver I've ever been around in this league.
But that's what you want.
The bad ones, all of them. They all want the ball. It's more important.
So why are we firing Sean McDermott again?
I just think they're going to go in an offensive direction. Would I fire him? No.
Okay.
But I'd make sure he hired the right damn offensive coordinator. I can tell you that.
Well, I'm sure that Josh Allen had the vote of the thumbs up for Ken Dorsey, right?
Yeah, I mean, did he?
Okay.
Sometimes you have a thumbs up with somebody you want to work with, and then you work with them and you find out,
Is Brandon Beane making the next hire if Sean McDermott gets fired?
Usually get 2.
Yeah, but remember, McDermott was there before Beane.
I know.
Because Doug Whaley got canned.
I don't know if they'll fire McDermott, and I don't know if they should fire him. I don't think you should fire him, but you got to get that offense straightened out.
Yeah.
Quit throwing interceptions, man. Quit fumbling the ball.
Look, part of Josh Allen being who he is throwing interceptions.
Well, then you have to give leeway to the offensive coordinator if that's.
And I'm going to give you someone else. We highlight this on Spotlight later this afternoon. There are 2 plays that highlight Josh Allen good and bad. One being the interception at the end of the half. He had the check down to Cook. He could have thrown it. He could have made that play, got 8 yards, went to the half and got home. Instead, he turns it over and they get a field goal. Later in the game, remember when he hit Davis in the middle of the field for about a 30-something yard play in the third quarter? Got pressured. If he steps up and stays there, he can hit a shot, but he's got Cook for a little dump off. Well, he doesn't take it. He flows to his left and fires a bullet down the field that only 2 people or 3 people on the planet can throw that ball, and it's a 30-yard completion. Off they go. That's the good, the bad with Josh Allen. You have to deal with that. If you're going to play offensive football with Josh Allen, there's going to be good and there's going to be bad, just like there was with Brett Favre.
Here's the thing, though.
Than anybody. You have to live with the good and the bad.
If Sean McDermott or Ken Dorsey came out and said that, they would run their ass out on a rail. So we can't have both ways. And Brady told you this on HU earlier today. CJ Stroud's in game 10. He's not acting like a crazy person out there.
It's look, give him, let the body of work play out. Okay.
All right.
Let it play out. It was great CJ Stroud was great last week.
Didn't you put Will Levis in the Hall of Fame after one game?
Oh.
Yes, that was you.
They counted it up the other day. I saw this. The Titans, somebody counted it up. 37 times he got hit.
I watched him yesterday. He must have been a terrible person in his previous life because he's getting his butt kicked.
Hey, real quick, Pete. Broncos have the Vikings, Browns, Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers again, and the Raiders remaining on their schedule at 4 and 5. 5.5 to 1 to make the playoffs. Any chance they make a run? Number 22 team in your power rankings. Played pretty good defense. Beat the Chiefs and the Bills back to back.
That is true.
But the one thing you can say is Sean Payton's kind of fixed Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Well, he's made Russ better than last year, but Russ isn't back to where he was, right?
No. But how about Russ admitting to Troy Aikman that he lost 15 pounds?
Well, that was a story. What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, that means he wasn't taking care of himself last year. He was
fat last year.
No pun intended. He was full of himself.
Broncos 10% chance to make the playoffs according to the Upshot. The Buffalo Bills 19% chance to make the playoffs. So I don't know if you're getting 5.5 to 1. I take the Broncos over the Bills at this point, especially with that tiebreaker head to head. Okay,
nice.
By the way, one of the largest upset wins of Russell Wilson's career last night. Let's take a break, and when we come back, more power rankings plus path to the playoffs. Woo, a lot of P's with Pete Prisco. Stick around. Next. All right, welcome back to the Power Ranking Show here on the Pick Six Podcast with Pete Prisco. Force somebody to give me a windscreen.
What are you doing?
Pew, 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 pew. Time of the season where we start thinking about the playoffs. Oh man, I love the playoff simulator.
Playoffs?
I love playoffs. Who's in, who's out, who's going to get home playoff games. Let's look at teams' path to the playoffs using the power rankings as a predictor. Your biggest riser this week, Pete, is the Cleveland Browns, who jumped 6 spots all the way into the top 10, currently sitting at number 7. The Browns have beaten good teams. They've looked awful on offense at times, but Deshaun Watson's starting to play better. If your rankings hold up, they'll definitely make the playoffs. Do you believe the Browns make the playoffs?
Yes. And I picked them to make the playoffs before the season. I thought that team had tons of talent on the roster. It was all about Deshaun Watson. What he did at the end of that game last week was impressive. Got to give it to him. And I think, like I mentioned in the power rankings, Stefanski's done a great job keeping that team together. So, yeah, I do think they make the postseason. I think you'll get 3 teams out of that conference.
The odds, Wilson, according to the Upshot of the Browns making the playoffs, 84%. And over on DraftKings, yes makes the playoffs -320. So
3 teams?
No, for the Browns.
Oh, yeah. So let me ask you guys this. Both tackles are hurt. Denzel Ward got banged up, it looks like, on Sunday. Any concern about just losing bodies at this point? Because that's all the excuses we're making for the Bills. Like, everyone on the defense is hurt, so we got to give them a break.
Yeah, but they're not season endings. The one tackle is, but the other one's not. So I think they'll be okay.
Okay. That's a good team. And
it's all about Deshaun Watson playing better than he's played. And he started to show that a little bit again on Sunday.
I mean, especially on that game-winning field goal drive where he had, I think, a 2nd and 19. He made it through a 17-yard laser to Amari Cooper that kept that drive alive. Eventually, obviously, went down and got that field goal. Prisco, let me ask you this, though. Look, you think the Browns can make the playoffs? Let's add some spice to that. Can the Browns win the AFC North?
Yes.
Yeah.
They can.
I think so.
Yes, they can. Absolutely they can.
You think they will?
Well, I mean, the Steelers game this week is pretty darn big, isn't it? Who would have thought that?
Stop.
Look at Ryan Wilson just waving us off anytime we talk about the Steelers.
Well, here's the thing. Brinson, and he says he repeats a lot of things, but he's not wrong when he says the Steelers and the Magic Beans. And we can talk about this in a second. How is this team winning football games?
Mike Tomlin.
The Steelers are a house of cards.
They really are, but they're super glued together right now. Like you got
their schedule isn't brutal either, if I'm not mistaken.
But they lose to bad teams and they be good. It's the wildest thing. And by the way, I said this to Brinson and Breech earlier. What if I told you in August that Ken Dorsey gets fired before Matt Canada and there's no criminal intent involved? Would you believe me?
Yeah, no. I would have thought that was absolutely a surprise.
Here's the Steelers schedule coming up at the Browns this week. Huge game at the Bengals. So I think
the next 2 weeks will decide whether they win the division.
Yeah.
Versus the Cardinals, versus the Patriots, at the Colts, versus the Bengals, at the Seahawks, at the Ravens. So
it's not easy.
Not easy. Yeah, 61% chance the Steelers make the playoffs according to the Upshot. Ravens are at 89%. The Bengals all the way down at 44%.
Well, I mean, one reason that's so low, and the Steelers are a good example of this. If the Steelers just split with the Bengals, they don't have to sweep them. If they just split with them, they're going to win almost any tiebreaker with the Bengals. You're already one game ahead. The split, the Bengals have to pick up a game somewhere else. And the Bengals are 1-4 in the AFC. They're 0-2 in the division. The Steelers are 2-0 in the division.
What?
And that is what is going to kill the Bengals. It's just that the tiebreakers, every tiebreaker is working against them.
Almost on the line this week.
But they're better shaped than the Bills. Like, I don't even think it's close.
Right. But
by the way, the Bengals are minus 135 to make the playoffs at DraftKings, and the Steelers are minus 110.
The Bengals season could be on the line this week?
Yeah, I think so.
I think this is a very important game, but I mean,
that means Breech knows it's do or die this week.
No, because after this game, I think they will be favored in every game until week 17 against the Chiefs. And if you win all those games,
Jacksonville on Monday night,
they're going to be favored in Jackson. They'll be favored in Jackson.
Pretty close.
I think
they 6.5 point. They were 6.5 point favorites against the Texans and lost outright. So I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, I'm not saying they can't lose, but I'm just saying that if they do win the games they're supposed to win,
I think Jackson will be favored in that game.
They'll be in good shape.
A point or two or something.
Yeah, it'll be a pick 'em or Jacksonville -1 or something like that.
Well, they played one of the worst games of the weekend. I mean,
we'll see.
Their offense is broken.
All right. Hey, speaking of the Jaguars, they got obliterated.
Oh boy,
fell to 7 spots. They're your biggest faller. I only fell down to number 10.
What?
Yeah.
Well, where are they falling?
3. Pete had them at number 3.
The team below them is better than they are. They beat them.
What?
They also lost to Carolina 3 weeks ago.
Here's your blurb for the Jaguars. They have major concerns now for the offense. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been the same guy. Can he snap out of it? What's going on? What's the deal with the Jaguars offense?
The offense hasn't played well the entire season. Even when they scored 30 points, they weren't playing well. It's a bad offensive system for him. And that's my personal take on it. And I've said it many a time. I say it on their air all the time on Monday nights. Bubble screen, bubble screen, bubble screen, bubble screen, bubble screen. Let's throw another bubble screen. Hey, we'll run it. We'll work it end around in. Now a bubble screen to the back. They don't throw the ball down the field. It's awful. They are last in the league in pass attempts 20 yards or more. And that guy has a cannon. And so what's happened is, and the 49ers said it last week. You saw Nick Bosa's comment. He said, Kyle Shanahan said, take away their first read, take away all those little bubble screens and make a play quarterback, because they don't do it. They don't do it. And I think it's a disservice to him. The way they're playing football is a disservice to their quarterback. And I think they need to start driving the ball down the field. And they just don't. They won't. And he's been sped up, and he's staying on his first read too long. This is not the same guy you saw at the end of last year. It's just not.
So, Pete, quickly, the Jaguars are 26th in the league and 26th worst. I mean, they're doing terribly in terms of turnover per drive. They're among the worst in terms of turnover per drive.
Hey, breaking news. Wait, is this breaking news?
They're near the bottom of the league in red zone efficiency. Like, they're not getting anything done. Plays per drive, they're near the bottom of the league. They're only running 5.25 plays per drive, where the Eagles are running a play more per drive. They're the top team in the league. So, unlike the Bills offensively, the numbers bear out what you're saying with the Jaguars.
but they don't they do not throw the ball down the field. Ridley can run, doesn't get open. They don't use a lot of motion. They don't use a lot of picks and rubs. They don't do any of that stuff. They run bubble screens the whole game. It's awful. And until they start, well, I mean, you know what the 49ers did? They defended them in a phone booth. They knew they weren't going to go down the field. It was easy. They took away all the quick throws, and nobody scared them down the field.
Pete, I don't want to do this to your Jags, but I am 100% pro Texans. I think Houston is going to win the AFC South, and I don't care that.
By the way, I think
I was going to ask you: do you think Houston's going to run Jacksonville down and win the division?
Look at their schedule. Compare the two schedules. The Texans play Arizona this week, and I think they have Denver at home in a couple weeks.
Houston has the easiest remaining strength of schedule of any team in the AFC.
The Jags are minus 225 to win the division. Texans plus 275.
Oh my God! Bet plus 275. I'm betting that right now.
Here's the other thing, though. It'll all come down to that game in 2 weeks. If Jacksonville can go in and win, the division's basically theirs because they'll have a 2-game lead in division and have split with them. But they have bad history with the Texans. You saw it earlier this year. Even when they were the better team, when they've been the better team, they've had a terrible history with the Texans. So to answer your question, I would say my lean would be to the Texans to win that division.
And to Prisco's point about the schedule, after this week's game against the Titans, Jacksonville's next 4 games after that are at Houston, against the Bengals, at Cleveland, against the Ravens.
And then it gets really soft, though, if you get right.
Yeah. They end with Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee.
Yeah. So they got to somehow navigate through get one of those AFC North games, or maybe even 2 of them.
Hey, Pete, we talked to Will Anderson today for the draft pod, nice. And he said that CJ, not surprisingly, but I think he's right. I want to get Brinson to look these numbers up. CJ is he'd vote for CJ for MVP right now. Do you have his odds, Brinson? Like, what are CJ's MVP odds?
40-1 when we talked about it on Sunday night.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that. Is he? Do you want to apologize to Danny Cannell?
He's down. He went. By the way, since we talked about that, I'm not saying we moved it. I think a lot of people have talked about this in the last 2 days, but like 25-1 to win now MVP.
So Pete, do you want to apologize to Danny Cannell when he said that CJ is a top 10 quarterback?
Well, he's playing like it.
Oh, so that's an apology, Danny. Take it.
No.
Pete Prisco would like to apologize to Danny Cannell.
Would you like to apologize to the draft cult for pumping up the 5'9" quarterback instead of pumping up the CJ?
You know what? It's funny you say that because when you were making excuses for Trevor Lawrence, I was going to say, can you please make those same excuses for Bryce Young, but you won't do it.
No, Trevor Lawrence is playing bad. I'll be the first one to admit he's playing. All right. If I were a Jaguar guy in that organization, I'd be a little concerned.
Oh, stop it. He's fine. You got to get you just said you got to get the offense to work with the quarterback.
He's not in the Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning.
That's okay, but you can have an offense.
Is he Herbert?
Well, Herbert hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire either.
He lit it on fire the other day.
Yeah, for 30 minutes, but yeah.
But that's the thing. You can watch the Chargers, and you can see these throws go down the field. You go, oh my God, he just ripped it 40 right to Keenan Allen. And Keenan Allen's not fast.
No.
He's good, but he's not fast.
Right.
Jacksonville should be doing the same thing. They don't.
Trevor's fine. You got to give him someone. You got to work with what you got. I don't know if they're doing that, like you said.
They got beat up physically the other day too.
Yeah, Chase Young apparently is pretty good. I heard.
I have a question for Brinson. Brinson, what was the breaking news you had?
What was that?
What was that?
You can't leave us hanging. You can't just bust in with breaking news and stop talking.
Yeah, it was a fake.
You fell for a fake quote. Classic Brinson.
I didn't say that.
What were you going to say though? Because it had to be pretty good to be.
I can't believe Brinson got.
It was some NC State news, Pete. I'm sure.
Brinson, you've been on Twitter for 15 years. You can't get got.
So it was a Dabo Sweeney thing. I'm sorry. I got.
God, that's embarrassing.
What, that he was getting fired?
We're going to A&M or something like that. Yeah.
Oh.
Look at you. You turned red.
I got.
It wasn't even NFL news. That's the best part.
I know, right?
Fish is coming to Raleigh tomorrow.
Yeah. NC State's hiring Ken Dorsey.
Speaking of A&M, real quick, when Jimbo got hired, my good buddy Matt Hayes sent out a tweet. Somebody sent this to me the other day. Sent out a tweet saying, this will be like Urban going to Ohio State. It's a great hire. And I said, will it? On the bottom, somebody sent it to me because I never thought he was a good coach.
Well, he got $76 million out of it.
Oh no, this is kind of fun. This is kind of funny college football related news. And then we'll get to the NFC North because Pete's got to go. But Jamie Chadwell, who's the Liberty head coach, did you see this tweet he sent? He's like, see everybody at the coach's show tomorrow, but he forgot to turn off location services. It says Starksville, Mississippi. He's down there interviewing for the Mississippi State job, like in the middle of the week, and like forgot to turn off location services. Great.
Why are the location services on in the first place?
Exactly. All right. NFC North. The Lions are a top 3 team in the league. Not surprising. Lions are great. They're my midseason Super Bowl.
The defense wasn't very good the other day. That's going to be a little bit of a concern.
Say something nice about the Lions before you go dunking on
I love Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff's been fantastic.
What about Dan Campbell? Is he too aggressive for you?
That was a stupid call. He got away with it.
No, I loved it. Loved it.
I loved it. I loved how Nance and Romo referenced Belichick going for it on 4th and 2. Pete went up to Belichick afterwards. Hey, jackass.
4th and jackass. That was my lead that day.
I remember I wasn't working at CBS at the time, I don't think, when he did that. I remember reading that, or maybe I was working at CBS, but I just remember reading, like, the headline was 4th and jackass.
Yeah,
it was?
That's my name for that play.
You can't do that anymore.
Dan Campbell, really a bad decision. Got away with it, which is, why would you not kick the field goal?
He wanted to control the clock, just like Sean Payton did.
But he wasn't controlling the clock if it's an incomplete pass.
He caught it. He's a positive person. He's not a glass half empty. That was a
terrible decision. It was stupid.
I liked it.
Got away with it.
Didn't hesitate. Don't think. Don't.
And by the way, if he had kicked field goals earlier in the game, he wouldn't have needed to be in that position. Remember?
Yeah, but Pete, here's the other thing. You could say he got away with it if he kicked the field goal there, and then Justin Herbert comes down the field and misses, a Tyler Boyd type in a situation in the end zone. Well, Dan Campbell got away with that too. Just go for it and be aggressive. You're all about being aggressive. Be aggressive.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I thought it was a bad decision, and he got away with it.
More importantly, in your power rankings,
he's the reverse Brandon Staley. If Staley had called that, it would have failed in his face. It would have backfired, and the Chargers would have lost.
Absolutely.
But you have a field goal kicker that would have been a 41-yard field goal or something, wasn't it? And Patterson.
Hey, Will Lutz missed a 41-yard field goal.
Okay.
I don't think it was trying to like get closer. I think it was like didn't want to give the Chargers time to block.
Yeah, they scored 80 points in that game, whatever it was.
Okay, but is that worth the risk of you give them the ball at the 40, 35-yard line? You're going to go down and get a field goal themselves.
I mean, Herbert and Keenan Allen were not getting, they were getting him in range.
And it was a simple pitch and catch. Laporta caught it, I think. It was
they ran simple pitch and catch. Go back and watch it. They had an hour to throw. He opened to the right. He came back to the middle. He went over there, and then Laporta cleared, and he threw it to Laporta. If they had any sort of pass rush, by the way, where were Bosa and Mack? That plays obliterated.
That offensive line is great. They did a good job protecting him.
It was a terrible.
You pay those
Josh Dobbs.
That'll backfire on him. I hope he does it again because it'll backfire on him.
Okay. 4th and jackass
2.0. Rick's brother called him when we were sitting in the green room, and I told him, I go, he blew it. He got away with one though.
Can't let him enjoy a win.
No.
The Vikings enjoyed a win and moved to 6-4 with Josh Dobbs as their quarterback, and they fell a spot in your power rankings.
What? Wait, what?
What the hell, Pete?
That doesn't make sense.
Well, where are they going?
Well, the Bengals are 12, and the Bengals just lost to the Texans at home in Cincinnati.
Who is that? Who jumped them?
Do you think the Vikings are better than the Bengals?
One team is in the playoffs and one team is not. So yes.
That's not what we're talking about. Do you think they're better than the Bengals?
No,
Bengals by double digits.
The Bengals would be a 10.5 point favorite against the Dolphins.
No, not 10.5, but they'd probably be
6.5.
I mean,
if they were on a neutral field, what would the spread be?
Bengals minus 4.5.
Yes, they're a better team.
They're not playing like it. And you just said earlier to Brady that the
they
reason
beat Buffalo last week.
You said
the
49ers lost 3 in a row.
4 of 5, and they just lost on a last-second field goal. Well, so it's not like they're playing horribly.
Wait a second. The Vikings won 5 in a row without Justin Jefferson, 2.5 games without Kirk Cousins, and 2 games with the guy that was
good defense.
Really
good defense.
Are you saying you would pick the Bengals to lose against the Vikings if they played tomorrow on neutral field?
By 2 touchdowns, Breech.
No, you wouldn't. So basically, you would take Josh Dobbs over Joe Burrow. Have at it, buddy.
I got it.
Josh Dobbs has one more good game in him, and then people figure him out in that offense. And you give him a 3-game book, and then go look at what his last 4 games were in Arizona. They were terrible.
They weren't terrible. That wasn't good. He was okay. I mean, they traded for him.
Look up Brinson. Look up Josh Dobbs' last 4 games in Arizona. I think 2 of them were under 200 yards passing.
Yeah, he wasn't very good. He wasn't very good. I'll bring it up. Pete, do you have a second talk NFC South before you get going, or do you need to go?
What time is it?
47.
47.
I gotta go.
All right, so we're going to take a break.
Bye, Petey.
Pete, who's going to win the NFC South? One word.
We go.
Saints.
Okay.
Jameis.
We're going to take a break when we come. Go ahead. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Pete will be gone through the magic of internet television. Bye, Pete. See you next.
You a lawman or an outlaw?
Bit of both, I reckon. Around these parts, we might be men. They're just killers.
You up for the task? I wouldn't be sitting here in my Sunday best if I wasn't. I'm warning you, your wicked days are done.
All right, welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast Show. Breech, you want to be the blind ranker?
Does that mean I read to you, or does that mean you tell me the rankings?
We will read to you.
Yeah,
I feel like Wilson has not had
Wilson,
to be.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah.
Wilson, the
all right, good. I was getting ready to look at the answers. I'm glad I didn't look. I won't look.
Yeah, okay.
Don't look, Wilson.
What we were ranking here, Wilson, what you were ranking here. So we're going to do a top 5. For those who don't know, the blind ranking, we're going to list a fan tradition that fans of an NFL team do. Wilson will then have to blindly rank that thing somewhere 1 through 5. But then if you rank it first and it ends up being like for instance, if I'm like great wide receivers and I give you Larry Fitzgerald and you rank him first, and then I'm like Jerry Rice, your rankings stink. That's not what we're ranking, but we're doing fan traditions. And we will start, Wilson, with one of my favorites. Skull. All
right.
I think when you get the skull going there, it's like the Vikings did that coming in. It's like they were like sailing in to take over somebody's like land, right? That's the whole thing.
That's one thing. Let me ask a follow-up though. How long have they been doing it? I feel like they've only been doing it at the new stadium. Have they been doing it forever in Minnesota? Like, I'm not a huge history Minnesota Vikings skull fan.
I do know that they've had that song forever, so I would say yes.
Okay. Been doing it for a while. All right. I'm gonna pull a Breech here. I'll put that at number 3 because I do like it, but I feel like there's some other traditions that I might like a little more. So 3, Breechy and start.
You know the song? Skull Vikings, let's win this game. Skull Vikings, honor your name. Go get that first down. They get a touchdown. I don't know the rest.
All right, 1. What is? Oh, so
skull is not a thing that Vikings did.
No, it is, and then the Vikings fans made a song about it.
So producer Harry notes that they've been doing it since 1961. So that's pretty.
There we go.
I wasn't even born.
There it is, the fight song of the Vikings.
So number 3, I'll put it number 3. I apologize for not knowing.
I got to tell you, my idea of like intimidating Vikings clap and like chants is a lot less intimidating when you hear Breech sing that Skull Vikings fight.
I think song. A lot of teams in the 60s and 70s
Vikings,
wrote those silly songs. The Steelers have a really dumb song too.
Here we go.
Yes, here we go.
I know all the cheesy songs because the Bengals have one too. All right.
I won't hold that against them.
Next up on this list, now that we have the Vikings at number 3, is the tradition of Buffalo Bills fans slamming each other through folding tables that are sometimes set on fire.
Yeah, I'm waiting for producer Harry to show the video of Ken Dorsey setting himself on fire and jumping through a table right now.
So the skull, by the way, the skull chant is actually only started with US Bank Stadium.
Oh, so I was right because I feel like I hadn't seen that before.
No, but the skull song has existed for.
I know, but they started doing
the clap, overhead clap. Okay. All right.
The chant is a copy of the Viking war chant made famous by supporters of the Iceland national team during their run to the quarterfinals of UEFA Euros 2016. So maybe it's not the Vikings did.
What we're learning is that Vikings are still around. Okay.
I believe it was made famous by Eric the Red Brinson in 950.
958.
That's what I thought.
All right, so I'm now doing the jumping through the table. And you know what? I've never you have some other traditions that I won't mention because they may come out later, but you have the skull chant, which is sort of new. I don't have an issue with jumping through the table. I just feel like it's extreme, and it's something you do when it's 12 degrees outside and your team historically they were good during the 90s with Jim Kelly, but then they had their valleys, you're out there eating, mac and cheese and
you live on a diet of like Fireball and like
yeah,
like some sort of like.
I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I'm gonna put it at 4.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but I don't want to be like, I'm fine doing a skull chant or whatever else. I don't want to have to jump to a table to prove I don't want to be initiated to get into the Bills Mafia.
I mean, I do a lot of stupid stuff and like insane things, and I don't think I jump through a table.
Breech, would you jump to a table?
Yes.
Okay.
That's very.
I mean, it depends on the situation, but likely I would.
Situation.
I mean, I got choke slammed on at a work function one time by a professional wrestler. So I mean,
It's true.
I was sore for like a week. After
Somehow
that.
it was actually fake and not real. You would imagine it had been a real.
It was great television.
The guy was actually acting. All right,
it was pretty crazy there. All right, next up.
Ooh.
If we get 1K likes on this video, Brinson will jump through a table.
If we get 2K likes, Breech and Wilson will push Brinson to a table.
That's on fire.
That's on fire.
Now up. The Steelers fans with their terrible towels.
You know what? If it's terrible towels plus Renegade, I'll go number 1, but it's not. So I'll go number 2. I love the terrible towel tradition. I know fans hate it, and I know that Breech can attest to fans at other stadiums hating the Steelers fans showing up the Yenders with their towels and waving them.
Yeah, that's like that Chargers game, that Sunday night game where it's just like the terrible towels everywhere. That was wow. That's
Breech. I don't know if the Bengals did this, but I think the Chargers had subsequently done this in the games that were home for the Chargers. They would pass out white towels to sort of counteract. Didn't the Bengals pass out towels at various points, their own version of it?
I have no idea. Yeah, they have. The Who Day towel.
Yeah, the Who Day. There it is. So I'll go number 2. I like it. I don't love it. I'm holding out for something better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if this one's better, but we're going to find out. What do we have? We have 2, 3, and 4 tickets. You only have 1 and 5 left. This tradition is
spicy.
Eagles fans climbing light poles.
We know enough Eagles fans to be annoyed by them.
Quite.
5. Climbing light poles is way dumber than jumping to a table, by the way.
It is hilarious that it's like Game 7 of the World Series or the NLCS, I guess, because Phillies they lost. But it's like Game 7 of the NLCS, and it's like some dude who works for the city is just out there greasing up light poles. Like what are you doing?
No one's taking the legs off of picnic tables to make sure people don't jump through them. You can still jump to a picnic table.
Nobody's like locking up Home Depot to make sure Bills fans can't get tables. I mean, Phillies fans. All right, so
I don't get the poll thing. All right, so this is number 1, so it won't not much suspense except for what it actually is.
Packers fans wearing cheese heads.
Oh, that is a 5+.
Really?
I do not. I'm not a dresser upper. I know. I'm not sure about you. I know Breech is big into Halloween, but I'm not big into dressing up for any occasion.
I mean, I would wear a cheese head over like a jersey, I think.
Oh, no way. Like, that's disrespectful to Producer Harry, who just busts out all his jerseys.
If I was a Packers fan, I'd wear a cheese head. I would have a cheese head sewn to my head. That's how much I love dressing up.
Yeah. It's 1. I don't have a choice. I actually prefer the skull to the cheese head. I would, if I were able to rank these in real time, I think cheese head might be 4. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, what would your ranking be if you could change it?
No, don't ask him that.
Okay.
He's not allowed to change it.
I got to live with it. Cheese heads it is. I'm wearing cheese heads on the next show.
I think you go terrible towels 1. I think you go terrible towels 1.
5.
Terrible towels 1. Skull 2.
Listen, terrible towel literally has what it is in its name. It's terrible.
Skull
for the
2.
opponent.
Bills fans 3, Cheeseheads 4, Eagles 5 would be your.
I think that's exactly it. Yeah. I would actually. My biggest conflict would be 2 and 3, as you label them, either the skull or the table, because I'm much more up on the table situation with the other options available.
Well, I just think like 2 of these things are like not sanctioned by the team at all.
Right. And
like
can get you arrested depending on where you do it.
Do they give out the terrible towels every game when they swing them, or is it like everybody shows up?
I think it's now it's a merchandising thing. So
it's BYOT.
Yes, BYOT.
BYOTT.
Biot.
Biot. All right. We're out, Biot.
Peace, Biot.
That's it for this show. Great job by Wilson, blindly ranking those items. Great job by Pete, giving us the power ranks breakdown. Good razzing of Pete. We're starting to get into the, it takes 10 weeks for us to get into the rhythm here, but I like the show where we finally got the rhythm. We know how to properly make fun of Pete. For Wilson, for Breech, I'm Brinson. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Smash that like button. We will see you guys later.